Okay, for those that are here, thank you so much for joining us on this first sort of official, I think, Northeast celebration of Global Ethics Day. It's been brought to you by the Northeast Initiative on Business Ethics, which is a group of volunteers that got together in 2013 to try and, well, to provide a platform to talk about sort of ethical and responsible business and to start building a movement so that more and more businesses, particularly small businesses, could see the virtues of trading responsibly and ethically. In our view, and in the view of all of the contributors who you will hear from this evening, commercial profit motive and values-led, purpose-driven businesses are not mutually exclusive. And we're trying to get that message with your help out into the broader business community. That's why it's been so fantastic that we've had such a wonderful response to our call for contributors from very, very different industries, very different size of businesses, because it's really going to help us ring the bell that ethical business is the way to do business. We've also, rather than taking the big picture that Global Ethics Day probably would suggest, we've picked up on their theme, which is ethics in action. And we've asked all of our contributors to talk about one value that they are driving out through their business operations. We're going to be very tight on time because we have 9 external contributors, as well as some of my co-directors at NIBE. So what I'm going to do is, rather than I will give everybody a brief introduction, and then what I'm going to do is introduce all our contributors, but very, so forgive me everybody, but I am actually going to give you all very short introductions as I come to you specifically. But I just want to give you a roll call of all of you just now, while we're still waiting actually for some more colleagues and guests to join us, just to show the richness and diversity of the people that we have here this evening. So, Professor Ron Beadle from Northumbria, Yvonne Gale from NEL, Hugh Welsh from Muckle LLP, Kerry Patterson from Tharsis, Andrew Hague from Newcastle Building Society, Kiss Crosby from Mortal Fools, Di Hayward from Micropore Technology, Leanne Coatman from Hayes Business Travel, Phil Jackman from Guerrilla Working and NIBE, Patricia Alexander from Shared Interest, John Duns from Northeast Times, and Hortz from the Culture Vulture, also a director of NIBE. What I'd like to do just now is hand over to Professor Ron Beadle, the much published Professor of Organisation and Business Ethics at Newcastle Business School, Northumbria University, a director of NIBE, and somebody who is very, very well placed to set the scene for us today. Ron, over to you.
Thanks, Caroline. And if Phil can let me share my screen, I will talk to it. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm just going to briefly talk about the background to Global Ethics Day and say a little bit about the role of a modern university within the development of ethics, and obviously using Northumbria as an example, but I think these things can be said of all the universities in the Northeast. Global Ethics Day is fairly recent. It was based on the experience of Earth Day and set up by the Carnegie Institute, which some of you will know is just over 100 years old, and was founded as an institute to develop peaceful relations between the countries of the world, and it tries to draw people together to consider international relations, but its scope has widened, and I think particularly its centenary project, which was about the development of the types of institutions that enable people to get on within communities as well as across communities. And that led to a widening in the scope of their work. So broadly, what they're trying to do through Global Ethics Day is to bring people together in different countries to celebrate good ethics across a variety of different types of subjects. So in terms of this year's highlights, and I've chosen 4 from over 140 that are listed on their website, They've recognized that this is the 75th anniversary of Hiroshima. And so there is an art display at Central Michigan University on that, which is part of the Global Ethics Day activities. The South African Ethics Practitioner Association is holding a seminar on whistleblowing today. Closer to home, the Association of Chartered and Certified Accountants is holding an event on ethics and sustainability within the accountancy profession. In Sofia, there's an online forum on artificial intelligence. And of course, there's this. So there's a wide variety of activities going on today. So that's the background to the day. In terms of Northumbria, I think that if we look at the universities, and I say not just Northumbria, because the move across universities and particularly working with the United Nations is quite marked recently to take on the sustainability and responsibility agendas. I think there are three main parts of that. I think it's about what you do as an institution, it's about the partnerships you have, and it's about, of course, the core business of teaching and research. And just some highlights here. We've reduced carbon emissions by 50% in the last 5 years. And that's one of the key bits of evidence that led the THE Times Higher Education supplement to rank us 27th in the world in their global impact assessment of universities taking on the sustainability and responsibility agenda. And just in the last couple of months, we've won the Green Gown Award for the work that our student law office does to give people access to justice who wouldn't otherwise have it. The work that I do with NIBE here is part of a much wider agenda across the university about working locally, nationally, and internationally with partners. We know that to move towards a more sustainable existence, no organization can do this alone. So we work locally with NIBE, with NEL, who you're going to hear from later in Yvonne's talk, with, amongst other things, the Purposeful Health Growth Accelerator, which is about generating firms in the region that make a contribution towards health in a variety of ways. Obviously at the moment, COVID. Nationally, we work closely with the Institute of Business Ethics, who are having their own online seminar. I'm not sure whether right now, but certainly today as part of Global Ethics Day, with business in the community and others. And internationally, we work with the Association for the Advancement of Colleges and Schools of Business as a faculty of business and law, and they're very much working towards ensuring that business schools across the world to gain accreditation have to have responsibility and sustainability as core to our curricula. We are one of the United Nations Prime champions. Prime is the UN's Principles for Responsibility in Management Education. Effectively, it's one of the drop downs from the UN Global Compact. And if any of your organizations aren't signed up to the UN Global Compact, any business can sign up, and the compact then works through sectoral bodies to try to generate responsible and sustainable business practice. And of course, some of you will have attended Paul Pullman's wonderful lecture at the university and his work through his group Imagine, which is about bringing together CEOs in particular sectors. And of course, and finally, for me, the core of our business is teaching and research. All of our programs are mapped against the Sustainable Development Goals. It's a core part of our strategy as a university. Within the business school, there are responsible business modules at every level on every program. So for undergraduates joining us, they get an iterative approach to understanding responsible business all the way through their academic career, from foundation and onto our MBA and our master's suite. And of course, we have world-leading research. We're in the top 50 universities in the world for business ethics research, but we have particular world-leading reputations around extreme environments, disaster relief, energy futures, and many others. And right at the end, Caroline is going to remember to invite me to do the advert for the Responsible Business Seminars. This event is replacing one of our monthly Responsible Business Seminars, and we have those from. We've been doing this for a number of years, and hopefully some of you, if you haven't been before, may be able to come along to those. Okay, so thank you very much. I'll hand back to Caroline.
Thank you, Ron, and sorry, that was me being bossy on time, so forgive me for that, but thank you so much for that sweep, and sorry to rush you, and yes, I will give you a chance to come back at the end. Now we're going to hear, you've already mentioned Yvonne Gale. Yvonne Gale is the Chief Executive of NEL Fund Managers Limited. The company's mission is to grow businesses with next level funding. Yvonne also holds non-executive directorships of the North East LEP, Shared Interest, and the Government Office of the Small Business Commissioner. Yvonne.
Thank you very much. That was a really fantastic introduction. I much appreciate it. I've picked honesty as our value. And then when I picked it, I realised how hard it was to talk about. So I'm half regretting this. And the reason I find it quite hard to talk about is normally I'm doing this in the office with our team. So it's always in context. And I think many of the speakers will talk about that today, that values really are contextual. But to give you a little bit of context, you kind of mentioned that we provide finance to small business. The bit that often gets missed is that we invest naked. Before you all visualise that, what I mean by that is that we don't take security from the business or the business owner. So no dementias, charge of the assets, personal guarantees, that sort of thing. And what that means is when we make the wrong decision, it costs us very badly. So we need to try very hard to make the right decision. Another feature of the market that we work in is that it's business loans. And has anybody else encountered when they've tried to borrow money? And it's quite a noisy market. And one of the techniques that some lenders use to cut through that noise is they offer sort of sexy teaser rates. And it's a wee bit like buying a flight from Ryanair or other equivalent budget airlines. You see a price on an advert, and the advert's beautiful. It's all, sun and sea and sand. But it's only after you click through a lot do you find out the real cost. And sadly, that's the way a lot of business loans are marketed. And we believe this isn't very good practice because it can cause people to feel like they've been misled. And really, that's not the way to start a business relationship. So that's context. And what that means in how we use honesty to cut through those problems are, we place a lot of emphasis on open and honest conversations. And we ask a lot more questions than most lenders do because we really need to make sure that we make the right decisions. There's a flip side to this. It means that really, it's not always suitable for people who, for whatever reason, need money for their business super quick because we have to go through our due process. And the other thing that we do is we're really transparent in our pricing. It's virtually impossible for anybody to misunderstand what we cost. So we don't do the teaser rates and the hidden charges and the dance of the 7 veils of what things are really going to cost. This flip side to that, sometimes people are surprised, and it's because they've seen these sort of not really very honest propositions. So they can be a bit taken aback, and we have to spend quite a lot of time with people sometimes explaining what that means. So that's sort of how we communicate. I'm going to mention as well who we communicate with, particularly amongst our own team. And what honesty means really for us is that we have to hire the right people who we believe are going to be straightforward in their dealings and uphold that value. So I can think of several highly experienced, very well respected finance professionals in the Northeast who don't fit our organisation. And on occasion, we've had to let people go when it's been patently obvious that their values aren't in tune with ours. And I'm sure other speakers will say the same thing about how important it is to get a good fit on the staff. And really to sort of wrap it up, because we only get 5 minutes each, so we have to be super quick. I'll just give you a simple example of a business we were speaking to in February, and quite a good way into working out what was right for that business. We found out a problem that they had chosen not to share with us, and the transaction fell apart. But I'm pleased to say that September they came back and they were a lot more open, and after a few tough conversations, this time they're getting their money. So really they're sort of examples of how honesty as a value, specifically in our situation, we use to try to make the right decisions, and also to make it plain to people who they're going to be dealing with. That was me.
Yvonne, how super! Thank you so much. And actually, I've experienced this, and I know it's through you like it's in your DNA, like a stick of rock. So we're flipping from finance now to the law. Hugh Welsh is the senior partner of Muckle LLP, the Northeast's leading independent law firm for businesses. Hugh has played a huge part in shaping Muckle's culture and its core values, and has always wanted the firm to make a really positive contribution to the broader community. Hugh Welsh. Hugh.
Thanks, Caroline, and thank you for that very, very kind introduction. Yes, just by way of background, for those of you who don't know, we are corporate lawyers based in Newcastle, certainly with an office in Newcastle, and that's quite important, what I'm going to come on and talk about, and very, very committed to the Northeast region and wanting to contribute to that. So, corporate lawyers probably don't always get the best of presses. So why do we do this? I started developing our CSR program about 20 years ago, and it's evolved from there, and I'll come back to talk a little bit about what's involved with it. But a couple of years ago, we did some work with all our people to try and pin down what our values actually were. And we came up with, after a lot of work, 4 values, which were trust, teamwork, responsibility, and care. And Caroline, I showed Caroline our internal document. She asked me particularly to talk about care. So care for us, what we tried to encapsulate in that was looking after each other, understanding and learning from each other, looking after our clients, and looking after the community. And that should feed through everything we do. And in a very low-tech way, here is our firm booklet that talks about the Muckle way and talks about our particular values. And everybody gets this, and we've all got, just fallen out, little cards that we're asked to fill in, and that's the care one, and you probably can't see it, but it says you made a difference. So if somebody's done something for you, well, it doesn't work now because we're out of the office, but before we got thrown out of the office, if somebody's done something for you, you just scribbled a little note and gave it to them. And it was really quite moving, the effect that it had and the way it's built some strength amongst the team. And it feeds very much into our community work. And just to talk a little bit more about CSR, because that is a key part of the caring bit for us. One of the main features of it is that we have a charitable fund, which is managed for us by the Community Foundation. And just a plug for the Community Foundation, they do a brilliant job for us in terms of looking after our charitable funds. So if anybody's thinking about creating any sort of CSR fund, please speak to the Community Foundation. We wouldn't have got to where we've got to without their support. But we give 1% of our annual profits each year to that charitable fund. And then it exists we've got 3 themes that were developed across the firm of looking after young people, helping them overcome social mobility and to gain employment. And those are the 3 themes that we try and support with grants. And we also make grants from that fund to local projects in which anybody in the firm has got an interest or an involvement. And we've now made grants since we set it up of just over £500,000. So it's a genuine, I think, useful contribution back into the region. We did a staff survey a couple of years ago, just trying to understand what people felt about the firm and what we could do better. And 98% of the people who worked for us at that time said that they were proud to work for the firm. And I think that, for me, feeds back into this whole concept of care and it not just being about making money. Yes, we're in it to make money. Who isn't in it to make money? You know, generating profit at the end of the day is an important part of it, but also then being seen so far as we can to use that profit wisely and well. And we don't always get it right, but I think, you know, from what people internally and externally say, it seems to work. When I was talking to Caroline in preparation for this, she said, well, you know, why do you do it? And that's actually quite a hard question to answer. I think I said, probably in a slightly rambling way like this talk, because it's the right thing to do, because, and shooting off at a slight tangent, it ties back into my faith. I believe that if you are fortunate in life, as I believe I am, then it's incumbent on you to do something to support others, and that's one of the driving forces around it. So it's simplistically, yes, it's the right thing to do. But as I said before, it makes people proud to work for us. I think it helps with recruiting. Younger people now are, particularly future trainees, they do look at firm values. They look to see that the firms stand for something that matters to them. So it certainly helps us in recruiting. And I think it gives us a real purpose to life. Just being a lawyer all the time is pretty dull, to be perfectly honest. So having something like that runs through the firm and that we stand for adds something to the life that we all have in the firm. How am I doing on time, Caroline? I didn't start my watch, so I've no idea where I'm up to.
You're pretty up to it. You're pretty up to time. Yeah, you are.
So should I just stop there?
I thought that was a lovely way to stop, actually. And you know, and you've thrown out two things here. I think both you and Yvonne, both commercial lawyers and finance providers are not. You don't immediately think these are people who are honest and do good for the wider stakeholders. So I'm hoping that what you've said and presented, and some of the benefits you've both articulated, will start getting some questions going in the chat. So thank you for that, Hugh.
Just a quick apology that I must peel off at 6 o'clock. So I won't be able to do too many questions.
That's absolutely fine. I'm quite sure if there are any that are specifically for you, you're not going to mind if I send you an email. So moving rapidly on, we're going to come to Andrew Hague. Andrew Hague is the Chief Exec of the Newcastle Building Society, the biggest society in the Northeast, which has been looking after its customers for 150 years. As a mutual society, the entirety of its £3.7 billion under assets are owned by members. As Chief Exec, Andrew appreciates the balance between delivering profitability and meaningful member value. Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, there we are. Hi, thanks. Newcastle Building Society, as you say, is a customer-owned business. And so the thing I want to talk about today was, it's not actually a value, it's purpose. And we are led by our purpose. And the way we phrase that is connecting our communities with a better financial future. And that purpose guides everything we do. It's at the heart of strategy, it's the heart of what happens day to day, it sets the culture and the tone within the organisation. Profit is a necessary and essential outcome of our business. Profit is critical to our viability, our long-term sustainability, and at the end of the day, we are a commercial entity, so you would expect that. But profit is not why we exist. For our society, profit is a means to an end. It is not the end in itself. and connecting with our purpose drives us to do the right thing. And we often end up doing things that would not sit well with other organisations in our sector. Our purpose is why we love our high streets, why we believe in branches and continue to invest in branches and open branches, and why within our purpose we talk about building lasting, authentic relationships with our customers. It is why our heart is absolutely in our communities. It's why we believe in financial advice too, another unfashionable thing that should be available to everyone and not just the wealthy few. And for our customers, we believe that technology is about bringing people together rather than pushing them apart. It's about enabling more and better human interaction and not replacing human conversations with machines. Purpose is why we care about talent in the region and the untapped human potential across the Northeast. It's why we celebrate our relationship with the Prince's Trust, not only to nurture untapped talent from the region, but also bring it home and offer those individuals a career and a place in our future, in our organisation. It's why every colleague is a dementia friend, regardless of their role, and why every new colleague becomes a dementia friend as part of their induction, in the belief that by improving our understanding, we may in some way positively touch the lives of a customer or a colleague or a neighbour or a family member. It's why we seek to help communities make change happen, whether by becoming the new last bank in town in locations previously abandoned by banks, and we did that twice at the beginning of this year, or through our commitment to supporting our communities financially through the current crisis. But also in that process, why we are so often humbled and educated and indeed awestruck by the people we meet in the amazing groups and charities that we seek to support. Now, in all of that, we're far from perfect. We don't always get it right, but I think purpose guides us with a sense of where we can do better. And we believe that a true sense of purpose, touching on the business, that the good that the business can do and the difference it can make, is absolutely at the essence of being a mutual, being a customer-owned business. But that doesn't have to be just for mutuals. That same line of thought can enrich any business in meeting its goals while being mindful of the wider impact and the wider good that it can have. And if it follows that route, it will probably meet its goals, not just in a better way, but it will meet them more fully too. So that was it. Just a walk through where we come from when we talk about purpose, and it genuinely does sit within the heart of the organisation. It's something that we spend an inordinate amount of time talking about internally, and it sets the context for virtually every conversation that we would be having about strategy or the way forward or why we've done something or what we're going to do next.
How wonderful and how powerful. And that, you know, not that honesty, not always getting it right, but the purpose that drives it through. Now, I made an error, as you will have noticed, because Kerry Patterson from Tharsis was supposed to be before you, but you've given me a wonderful segue to introduce you, because you talked about your nurturing talent. That is exactly what Kerry Patterson is doing for Tharsis, the specialist the Blythe-based manufacturer of strategic machines. She's head of HR there at Tharsis, and her role is to find the right Tharsis people and instill in them the firm's culture and value. This is all about aspiration and opportunity. Kerry, are you there? Thank you, Andrew. Over to you.
I certainly am. Thank you very much. Am I able to pop the slide up? I do like to talk to a slide, so I'm going to break the tradition here and pop a slide up.
Oh, yeah, I've just made you host, so you can. Yeah.
Fab. Thank you very much. Okay. Can everybody see that? Is that sharing with everyone?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Good stuff. Fantastic. So what I'm going to talk about from an aspiration perspective is community impact. because that's something that's really close to our heart at Tharsis and Universal Wolf. The reason community impact is so important to us is because we truly believe that as a business, we're driven by the community within which we operate. Quite often, looking after your colleagues can very much mean looking after the community that they're from. And we're very fortunate that where Universal Wolf and Tharsis are based, Universal Wolf is the other company in the group, we're actually based in the centre of Blythe. We're within a town, we're in Blythe. So many of our colleagues actually come from Blythe and the surrounding areas. So we really want to have an impact on the local area. One of the key, or the main key focus on that is the aspiration of school kids. Our goal around that is to get 25% of school age kids to come through one of our sites. And the aim of that is to try and reach those kids. You know, Southeast Northumberland, that we've got pockets of deprived areas in Southeast Northumberland, and quite often you've got kids who are sort of from second and third generation families where unemployment is the norm, is very much a reality in the family. And what we're trying to do is raise the aspirations of those kids and try and sort of reach them at an early age. Some of the things we do around that are, one of the main things we did last year, we actually employed a school teacher. So it was a school teacher who was taking time out, taking a career break, raising a family of her own, but wanted to come and do something meaningful. So we hired the school teacher and we got her, we got her helping engaging with schools, because we quite often talked about, all the things we wanted to do with schools, but we didn't really understand the challenges and, why are we getting the engagement? What are the issues that they're having in engaging with us? Because we really want to help, we want to do lots of good things. And actually hiring that teacher helped us understand why we weren't getting the engagement. So as a result of that, she managed to get us through the doors of one or two schools. We engaged with the head teacher and we started looking at how we could help them, doing things like, our engineers, sending the engineers into the schools to do practical engineering, show them that it could be fun, getting the kids to come to our sites and looking at how great manufacturing and engineering could be, and looking at some of the products we were working on to show them that actually there's a really cool career opportunity on your doorstep. There's really good things happening, and it was to try and get them at that early age really kind of excited and passionate about something. We've done a lot of that. Obviously, with COVID comes challenges, as that always happens. So what we've kind of turned it on its head and thought, right, we can't get the kids to us. We can't really do the sort of interactive things that we wanted to do. So what can we do? So we're doing things like doing videos of our sites and of some of the engineers doing really cool things. And we're taking the videos into the schools, showing them in the classes, doing sort of live walkthroughs, different things. We're also doing things like creating science and maths packs, which is just a different way of, yes, you've got your teacher, but we're creating some really fun puzzles and different things around science and maths that we're sending into the schools, and actually also sending them to our colleagues' kids as well, because, it's a really rubbish time for colleagues' kids as well as the school kids. So we're trying to do lots of different things to get them engaged. We're doing some other stuff around that. We're doing other things with older kids, sort of youth and adult work experience, because that's just as important. We're trying to get kids at an early age, but there's also sort of your teenage kids that actually maybe have kind of come out the school education system that we haven't been able to reach. So what can we do to help them? One of the, I can't remember who it was that mentioned it before, but Prince's Trust, we're very proactive with the Prince's Trust. And we've had quite a few successful cases where we've had people coming in from the Prince's Trust and work experience. And they've been great. We've hired them, fantastic, because they've been absolutely, motivated and keen just to get that first start on the career ladder. And we've done that, and they've absolutely shone when they've got into the business. We've had some of our engineers go and do the primary engineer, the Lego League, again going back into the schools. So we're doing a lot around, you know, how can we get more involved and how can we get more proactive. One of the things we also wanted to do was looking at how we could provide some employability skills to people who are out of work. How could we get them in to give them some experience, not necessarily work experience, but help them with, you know, interview coaching and employability. We haven't managed to get to that yet because COVID hit and we haven't quite found the right partner that we want to partner up with that. But
Kerry,
yeah.
Can I just cut, because we're on 5 minutes now, but you've given us such a rich lot to go at. And actually, you know, I am being bossy today and keeping people to time, but I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing it, because people won't have known what you were doing. And, you know, that's why I was so keen to get it, you know, that's ethics in action. And also, even though I made a muddle with the order, it is a wonderful introduction to our next contributor, who is Kiss Crosby. Kiz is the founding artistic director and chief executive of Mortal Fools, a multi-award winning theatre, drama and creative learning charity that is powered by professional artists working as co-creators with young people and communities. And I think you'll see there's a bit of a read across here, Kerry. Thank you so much. Kiz, over to you.
Thanks, Caroline. I am going to share my screen as well. There we go. I hope everyone can see that okay. So as Caroline said in her lovely introduction, Mortal Fools is a creative business. And as a theatre company, we specialise in that process of co-creating original theatre productions with children and young people, and using the process of doing so to support them to develop skills for life, and specifically for a fulfilled life, and that's really important. We also run training using a really similar process with people from businesses of all sectors, and we're very clear on what ties all of this work together, and that is purpose. In the arts and culture sector, many organisations will say that the work that they do transforms people's lives, but few will be able to say why. Why does their organisation exist? And more importantly, why should anyone care? At Mortal Fools, we've done a lot of work over the last few years to clearly articulate the purpose for our existence. We exist to support people to develop better interpersonal relationships in all facets of their lives. For the young people we work with, that might be relationships with their peers, for example, learning to cooperate, collaborate, learn from one another, and to work together to achieve their shared goals. Or it might be their relationships with their parents or other significant adults in their lives. In 2018, we produced a show called Brainstorm, and it demonstrated the massive neurological changes happening in teenagers' brains. The show helped teenagers better understand themselves and what was happening to them. And it helped the adults in their worlds learn new ways to parent them or teach them, which were generally kinder, were more empathetic, and ultimately more effective. For the businesses that we work with, we might support training towards more openness in line management relationships, develop personality-led leadership practice, or a body, mind, and emotions approach to communication skills. But why is any of this important? Well, if I come back to this nebulous term, improving people's lives, social science tells us clearly that a fundamental pillar to emotional and mental well-being is the presence of quality relationships in our lives. Mortal Fools improves people's well-being by supporting them to improve the quality of their relationships. We use theatre and drama, which are people-focused, interpersonal art forms, as our methodology. People are always our focus, and we start with the people who are our organisation. We know that how people are treated at work has a fundamental impact on their motivation, on their health, and on how they treat other people in their lives. As custodians of people while they work with us or take part in our activities, we have a moral responsibility to support their well-being. So to help us shape this, Mortal Fools has 4 key values, each of which is a key pillar to forming positive relationships. Those values are contributing, growing, with others, as ourselves. With my remaining couple of minutes, I'm going to elaborate on one of those core values, growing. This means becoming more. It means that we are bold and ambitious. We do not limit ourselves by fear of failure. We constantly look to learn from others. And we nurture a growth mindset. And a growth mindset is an approach that says people's skills and knowledge are not finite. And with the right support, everyone is able to become more. Examples of how growing has been visible in our organisation in the last month are our board of directors and our staff team participated in anti-racist training to highlight key areas where we currently lack knowledge and highlight areas for improvement. We're developing a delivery practice for our staff, identifying specific ways that we can support and nurture positive relationships, like learning how to be fully present, and learning how to admit failures and challenges. And this commitment enables us to keep growing and for each person to play their part, to play their position well for the good of their colleagues. And what that means is motivation is high, innovation becomes the norm, productivity rises and the whole company benefits as a result. And I'll finish by saying why this is also important. When a global pandemic arrives as an unannounced tsunami, bringing massive and potentially catastrophic consequences for your business, your purpose and the safe culture that you have cultivated is the anchor that keeps you steady. There's space to express the inevitable fears and uncertainty, but you can regroup around your anchor, reminding one another of why the work you do matters. And rooted by that firm anchor, you can plan new ways to navigate these tumultuous seas safely and discover new ways, as many people have already spoken about, of achieving your aims and your purpose. None of those new things may have been in your original plan, but you are now sailing into the future changed, more resilient, and with the renewed confidence that your work is still important and that you're all in it together. Thank you.
Wow, Kiz. I must say, when I was thinking about growing, I thought, what does she mean? So thank you for that. That was really very powerful, and growing in a different context. Actually, a wonderful segue to our next speaker, Di Hayward, MBE. Di is CEO of the chemical sector's award-winning Micropore Technologies. Its unique process uses a sieve-type membrane to engineer droplets and particles to a uniform size. This brings benefits to manufacturers of products from food and medicine to cosmetics and even rocket fuel. The growing bit is because the company has grown very fast since moving to Redcar in 2017 and now has offices servicing Europe, the Middle East and Asia, the Americas, Canada, and India. We're changing the form a bit because actually I'm now going to ask Di some questions. Di, are you there?
I am indeed.
Goody. Micropore is a leading chemical sector pioneer. Picking up Kiz's word of why was it important to think about the nature and values of your business?
I think two things I'd like to start with by saying, firstly, some stepping stones, and then the relation to the business. The stepping stones are personal ones. I was involved with the Chemical Industries Association Council for a good many years and chaired its Responsible Care Board, which obviously was in its early days all about product stewardship, sustainability, and things like that. So if you like, doing things the right way has been part of me for a while. I then took my previous employer through the very first certification to ISO 14001, the environmental standard. So that was a bit of, putting money where mouth is and delivering on expectations there. It was transformative in the business in the sense that the business had hitherto been regarded as a poor environmental performer. Somewhere along the lines, I also became very heavily involved with the Prince's Trust, and we've heard something about some of the good work that does already this evening. So if you like, those are the stepping stones on the way. But yes, you're right, Caroline. We moved to Redcar, to the Wilton Centre in 2016 with half an employee. And we grew slowly until earlier this year, at which point the idea of retaining a particular kind of culture became very important to us for hiring and choosing the right kind of people to join this very small team. Because at that stage, we were 4 people. We're now 11.
And so it's a thing to talk about it, isn't it? But then it's a next thing to do it. So because this is practical, what did you do, Di?
Well, the first thing we did was to start by going through if you like, a branding and values exercise. And we've heard something about that from other contributors already. So we ended up with 4 values: collaborative, pioneering, passionate, and transparent. And the transparent one says, strong relationships are based on integrity and trust. So we keep things simple, and we've made complete honesty, both with others and with ourselves, part of our DNA. So that then started to beg the question, okay, what does that mean? And out of that came the development, the creation of our ethics policy, which sits immediately after our values and before all the policies and procedures in our employee handbook.
And tell me, I mean, other people have talked about benefits of, so has it actually made a difference?
I think it's probably a bit early to say that it's made a massive difference. What it has done is to allow people, fundamentally a group of young employees, I'm very definitely the oldest by a country mile, it's allowed them to coalesce around something in which they believe, and allows them to see that the organization shares those beliefs. So some of the things that we talk about, for example, in components of our code of ethics, are respect for others, integrity, justice, lawfulness, competence, and teamwork. And so, for example, we've heard something already about a willingness to go forward without fear of failure. That's certainly a very strong underpinning of everything we do, because we are pushing the boundaries. Technologically, we are doing things that nobody's ever done before. And as a result, we will make mistakes. So it's very much a question of how do we deal with those mistakes? How do we allow an environment where those mistakes are acknowledged and accepted, learned from, and forgiven for at least a couple or 3 times, so long as we don't keep making the same mistake again. But I am put in mind of the fact that Alistair Pilkington developed the Pilkington float grass process when he went to his board every month and said, can I have another, I think it was £250,000 at the time. And they said, have you made the same mistake again? Nope. Have you made any progress? Yep. Here's your money. And out of that, after many years, came the float grass process. So I think there's some lessons through all of this that enable us to build that framework within which we have the ability to allow people to speak their mind and to make a genuine and honest contribution.
Thank you, Di. And you talked about the values that you've enshrined, you've talked about your ethical policy now. Do you intend, as you go forward, as you say, this is early days, to measure what you're doing?
I'm not quite sure how we'll measure it, to be honest. I haven't turned my mind to that. This was implemented in June. What it is doing is informing us in our relationships as we start to expand into further geographies. So those with whom we are beginning to deal are being, if you like, measured against the yardstick to say, You know, do they have the same sort of values? Do they have the similar kind of integrity? Do they have the same transparency, the openness? Because if they do, then we'll have a conversation. If they don't, thank you, but no, we'll find somebody else.
Thank you. And that is a wonderful place at which to end, because it actually also marries with what Kiz was talking about, that uncharted territory, but having that lodestar, which is going to take you forward. Di, thank you very much indeed. It's now time to change, talking about uncharted territories. The travel industry, as we know, was really, really badly affected by the pandemic. And so it's wonderful that Leanne Copeman, who is the B2B sales manager for Hague's Travel for Business, dedicated obviously to providing a professional and travel solution for business travelers, is joining us today. It won't come as a surprise. The Travel for Business is part of the Hague's family, the UK's largest independent travel agent, employing now 7,500 people across the country. Leanne.
Thank you for that, Caroline. Good evening, everybody. Right, I just wanted to kind of show you what our core values are for Hague's Travel. With obviously, when you hear the Smile advert on the radio, etc. So as you can see, supportive, motivational, innovative, loyal, and excellent. A little bit background for those who may not know, it's Northeast Company. John Hague started the company in the back of his mum shop selling Butlins holidays in 1980. Now we are the largest UK independent travel agent, and that we were before we'd actually bought Thomas Cook last year. What I'm going to talk about is the motivational value which we have, and how John and Irene actually push that through to everybody else in the business. So if you can see, can you see these slides okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So these are kind of snippets from the communication that John and Irene share with us. So we have our own hub, an intranet, which is accessible for all members of staff, whether in a branch, whether the head office, home workers. So it goes right across the board. Now, basically, they share and they motivate staff by sharing company information and keeping everybody up to date. And for being directors of a company, sometimes you would kind of find the directors are kind of sitting in the background and all the information kind of filters downhill. What I love about this company so much is they motivate the staff by getting them involved. When they shared the news with us first when they purchased Thomas Cook before it hit the press, and then also when, unfortunately, as we know what happened this year with COVID, one of the first messages there, the videos, was actually where they could see what was going to happen within the business. And obviously just making everybody aware before the furlough scheme and keeping everybody else up to date. But they kept motivating the staff all the way through. I mean, they were doing videos from home, just checking in with everybody, making sure that everybody was keeping safe, thanking everybody so much for all the hard work and that they're doing. And one thing that they did ask for everybody is to come up with ideas on how we could save money across the business, knowing the hard times that we were going to face. Didn't realise it was going to go on as long, to be honest, but it is what it is, and we're making the very best of what we can. So some staff came up with ideas about, I'm just trying to think of one in particular. There was that many. What staff were coming up with suggestions was something as simple as kind of window cleaning in all the branches, how to kind of cut back on that, and just like small things, but everything kind of added up as one. So they kind of kept the staff morale there as well with the constant communication. I actually asked a couple of members of staff in the head office some of their quotes on what they actually think. And these are some of the quotes that have come back. So we're always kept informed with business updates. It makes us want to work even harder, knowing how passionate John and Irene are also about their staff and for everything that they give back. Always willing to listen to our ideas. We share news for everybody to see on our intranet. We have daily team meetings either virtually or in the office to keep us informed of latest industry news. And as you know, things change continuously at the moment, whether there's a destination goes into quarantine, if it comes out of quarantine, how long Jet2 is suspended flights for, or whatever. So they kind of keep everything in there. They also, we looked at kind of the guaranteed peace of mind. They motivate. They've got a really fantastic relationship, what we do with all the suppliers, airlines, tour operators, etc., and putting in place the peace of mind guarantee for anybody who is booking future holidays, and they get free cancellation and amendments. Makes the staff very proud to work part of the company. They develop the staff to the highest potential. We have our own in-house training. As you may know about our garden parties and everything that they throw, there's one there. They have an annual conference, not this year, that they take, they chart a couple of Jet2 flights and take them, the staff overseas to do a conference. So they've got a lot that they do for all the staff. They have, what was I going to say? They don't shy away from involving staff. They work on the ground with everybody, work very hard in the business. And as I said, they really care for the employees, and that's reciprocated back how the employees actually work for them. And like I said, as you know, it's a very, very difficult time at the moment.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Leanne.
No problem.
I think it is, you know, it is at times like this that, you know, the sort of tough kept going. So it's wonderful to hear that, and to hear that John and Irene are so involved. And actually, we're going to have a chance to hear from Irene at the Tees Valley Business Club next month.
Yep, November, yep.
Wonderful building on the snapshot that you've given us just there. Di talked about, you know, that it was early stage, you know, thinking about the company values, and then, you know, the roadmap towards an ethical policy. So our next contributor is Phil Jackman. Phil is the founding director of Guerrilla Working, a consultancy working at the point where technology meets an organisation's people. He has an interest in culture change, creative opportunities, and regional development. We're also extremely lucky to have him as a director of NIBE. He's combined the two roles he has to drive the production of an ethical toolkit for businesses. Phil.
First of all, Caroline, you're very kind, as always. And my name's Phil Jackman, and I'm one of the directors of the North East Initiative on Business Ethics. So we're promoting ethical business across the North East region. So to achieve this, we raise public awareness of the importance of doing business ethically through a network of interested people, events and information. We help organisations to strengthen their ethics culture and encourage high standards of business behaviour based on ethical values. We collaborate with other UK and international organisations with interests and expertise in business ethics, and we help to shape, support and promote ethical campaigns such as the Fair Pay campaign. And we support research into business ethics and help people to talk about it. So we're working with like-minded individuals and businesses to promote the region as an ethical place to do business. Now, ethics is a complicated subject. They're very personal, and yours may well be different to mine. Every day, businesses are faced with a multitude of ethical decisions, and every one that's made has some ethical implications down the line. And this happens in all businesses, whether there are specific and regulatory compliance issues or not. There are no simple answers, which is why we've developed our online toolkit to support businesses that are interested in ethics, being more ethical, and are eager to get going. The Business Ethics Toolkit has been developed by a group of NIBE supporters and consists of 5 online modules. You can spend as much time in each module as you wish, going as deep or as wide as you feel is right. There are no right or wrong answers. The modules are there to help you and your business to get your thoughts and actions in order. Module 1 then, what does your business mean by ethics? Well, this addresses and critically reflects on some of the dilemmas you face when thinking about ethics and helps identify what they mean to you and your business. Module 2, what are other ethical companies doing? Well, we've surveyed companies, and it explores how other organisations are working on the same issue and some of the actions that they are undertaking. Module 3, measuring the measurable, is another complicated area. Proving what you're doing is ethical and proving its effectiveness is a challenge. And here we investigate some of the ways you can report and measure your actions. While in Module 4, measuring the immeasurable, explores those areas where people judge you not by what you're doing, but about how you feel and your business, the unseen aspects of measurement. Module 5 brings it all together, gathers all you've covered into an action plan and critical pathway, which you can then build and apply to your own circumstances. And there's a final section filled with useful information to help you on your journey. So this toolkit, which is going to be launched officially on November the 26th, is free to use. You can dip in and out of it as you wish and come back to modules as your thinking is shaped and your plans revisited. Please feel free to share it with your colleagues and networks, because ethical business is good for all of us. Thank you.
The marvellous thing is you've sown the seed that we have this ethical toolkit coming. We've done it with business input, and actually we did a survey looking at cross businesses, and we used that to start actually thinking about measuring the measurables and measuring the unmeasurables, and that for those two measurement things are a great segue actually to our next contributor, who is Patricia Alexander. Patricia is the CEO of Shared Interest Society, an ethical investment organisation that lends capital to businesses and cooperatives which adhere to the principles of fair trade. In 2019, the Society made £69 million worth of payments to 400,000 farmers and artisans across 63 countries. 70% of the recipients have no other access to finance. Patricia is the winner of the North East Times Global Impact Award. Patricia, let's hear from you. Measuring the measurable, measuring the unmeasurable.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm not sure how I can follow that introduction. Goodness me, I now have to live up to that, don't I? Okay, let me share my screen with you all. Great. Hope everybody can see that. So I want to talk about transparency and accountability, because as a member-owned business, we have over 10,000 investors investing more than £46 million. But their investment is at risk because we aren't regulated by the FCA. So they get a very small currently financial return on their investment, but sometimes they get no return depending on whether we can afford to pay interest or not. And we always say that your investment in shared interest will not make you rich, but it will enrich the lives of others. And therefore we have to find a way of giving them comfort, our investors comfort, that we are staying true to our mission. We have always had an investors council since we were formed 30 years ago. And that council meets 3 times a year. And its purpose is to make sure that the board of directors are setting a strategy that's in line with our mission. However, in 2005, we decided that that wasn't really enough return for our investors. And so we started to publish social accounts alongside our financial accounts. These social accounts are independently audited by the Social Audit Network. They're approved by the board, just as the financial accounts are, and they go to the AGM to be voted on by our investors. They're also available publicly on our website for anybody to access. The purpose of social accounting is to be very transparent about whether you're delivering your mission, and this is our mission: financial services, business support to help people trade their way out of poverty. We do that by lending to fair trade businesses, mainly in Africa and Latin America, and also about staying true to our values. And our values are very much centered around what we built into our objects when we were first formed, and that is to conduct our business along the principles of love, justice, and stewardship. So I just want to share with you a few slides about how we consult with our stakeholders and what we include in social accounts. There's a massive information in our accounts, so I can't cover everything. So this is just a snapshot. So every year we do an investor survey. It has about 40 questions in it. This is just a view of a few of them. So we ask them about the risk we're taking. We do quite risky lending, a lot of it unsecured. Whether they're happy with the comms, whether they're happy with their interest rate we're paying. And we use this also to form our strategy going forward, and often ask members about specific topics they might be interested in. This one was about environmental. No surprise, 2/3 of our members are deeply interested in environmental issues. You probably can't read this because it's quite small. It's just to give you an idea. This is our customer engagement, a survey in Africa and Latin America. The deeper the green colour, I hope it's green on your screen, the deeper the bars anyway, the better the more positive the answer. It's about asking them how our finances are supporting their organisation and also the communities that they live in, which are just as important. We'll do a staff engagement survey. Again, the darker the green, the more positive. This is carried out by an independent company in Newcastle called People Gauge for us. And this includes all of our offices in Newcastle, in East and West Africa, in Peru, and in Costa Rica. And then we ask for 3 words, what it's like working at shared interest. Obviously, the larger the word appears, the more times it's being used by people. For those of you who have very good eyesight, you'll see lush and canny in there. One assumes that that was coming from our Newcastle office, although of course we don't know who was responding to these surveys. We also have about 100 volunteers who work across the UK, promoting the work of shared interest, giving talks, manning stalls, handing out leaflets, and we engage with them by asking them why they engage with shared interest, what's their motivation, and are we giving them enough support. We also report on our carbon footprint and our recycling every year. We have a carbon offset fund, which we use to carry out projects with our producers. We also like to report against how we're performing against the SDGs, very important to our investors. They're all very ethically motivated. We pull out 5 that we report on in more detail because we believe that we impact these more than the others, although we hope we have some impact on most of the SDGs. And this is the most important slide because this gives our overall impact. Caroline stole my thunder a little earlier. We worked with more than 400,000, with almost 400,000 farmers and artisans. 36% of those were women. And of course, we're not just impacting them, we're impacting the community. So this is a really important slide for our investors. It also gives us the opportunity to provide further information that we wouldn't include in our financial accounts. So this, for example, shows members that we actually utilised their investment 1.6 times during the year as loans are repaid. Obviously, we've only got £46 million worth of capital, though it is growing, even in the current circumstances. It just shows that we can make more payments than actual capital that we have in a year because of the repayments. And this is just an idea of other data we might include in relation to the types of products that we fund. As you can see, coffee and cocoa are our main products there. And actually, I think I'm on time because I timed myself. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, and 30 years, multi-award winning. So thank you very much for that, Patricia. And from your personal award, I thought it was absolutely right and proper that we gave the final word to our last external contributor, who's John Duns. John Duns is the co-founder and director of North East Times. John has over 30 years experience in media, sales, management and marketing. And this was brought to bear when the magazine was relaunched 5 years ago. The pandemic has created a rethink, as indeed it has for us, so many of us, for us all, but not a shift in core values. John will explain more. John, over to you.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
That was a brilliant introduction, Caroline. Thank you very much. I could definitely not have beaten that. Well, good evening, everybody. And if I could tell a little bit more of the story, then I'll talk a bit more about where we're getting to now. And one of the main things I want to push across is the importance of relationships. So first of all, I'll just share. Could Phil allow me to share? And I'll share a slide or two, if that's okay. I am now the host. That's very exciting. Okay, in which case, I'll start off with. Can everybody see the slide? Just thought I'd better check on this. Good. Yes, we live in different times, but I'll come back to that. So as Caroline very kindly said, yes, 5 years ago, I invested in a new business startup where I, with another investor, on the idea of a man called Pete Mallon, bought a defunct business title called North East Times, which had closed earlier in the year. And we launched the new North East Times in November that year. Now, I had never invested in a business before and was at the time business development director at the wealth managers Brewin Dolphin. So it had to be something very exciting and something very different for me to invest. And what really appealed to me was a combination of a number of things. There was a clear market opportunity. I think it was fair to say, and this has continued, that the authority of the regional press had somewhat declined by that time, and I'm afraid still has. And I know this from firsthand because I spent 14 years working for the Journal newspaper. I was impressed by Pete Mallon with his design ideas and his idea of good independent stories by qualified journalists. But really what kind of sealed the deal was the importance of the values that Pete suggested and we agreed the business needed to be established on. And there were three values: creativity in everything we do, which is obviously very important in the world of publishing, but also transparency and integrity. And I think that was very true then in the world of publishing, both online and off and in print, but I think even more so now. Publishers are under great financial strain and massive pressure from shareholders for instant results. It's a very, very difficult industry that has gone through turmoil, especially in the regions. And I think this pandemic has really brought that to the fore. So with those values, we set off to produce something special. And I'm really very pleased with the progress we've made over the last 5 years. We have established ourselves. But the real key to this, with those values, are the way that we operate our relationships with our clients and operate internally. We really like to believe we care that people who spend money with us, because we rely entirely upon advertising revenue, actually get results, but also feel that we care about them, because we do care about them. We really want people to say, well, I've seen stuff in North East Times, it's worked for me. And if it doesn't, we'd rather say, look, it isn't working, we'd like to move away. We're much happier in that. And I think the way the publishing industry has gone, and I think online this has happened, is it's become very transactional. And we don't want simple transactions. We don't want somebody to say, please, can we have a page of advertising? We really want to help businesses out. And if that means we'll help a business that can't afford to spend any money with us at the particular time, that won't stop us. There are a number of people that I'm talking to now saying, look, we just can't afford to do stuff at the moment. Could you publish our press releases? Things will get better for us, and we will do that. And I think that's extremely important to us. And I think that's why we've been successful, this concentrating on relationships. And pleasingly, we've built relationships with bodies such as the Chamber of Commerce, CBI, IOD, and other organizations across the built environment, because I think people have seen the fact that we care. Now, I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to give you a sneak preview. During the course of the pandemic and lockdown, we realized that perhaps it was time to move our business to the next level. So you'll see this says different times. We are in different times, and we make no apologies for the fact that it is difficult, but we are changing the look and feel of our brand, we believe, to make us even more relevant and even more, due to the fact, I think, that people want news about our region, and they want some good news as well, because let's face it, they haven't had very much. So moving forward, I'll move that slide there, our inspiring stories of modern business, and I won't talk through that. We're very, very keen to get your stories out there to tell other people in the region and further afield, because we're strong on social media. Outside the region, this is a great region to live and work in. So the new North East Times will, as it always has, as a clear readership, a very transparent readership of who it goes to. I won't go through that, But the look and feel will again be something really special that we hope the North East can be proud of. And you'll notice there the word North East is spelled out, which it currently isn't in our magazine, because we want the whole region to know that we are going to promote them internally in the region and externally. So our commercial strategy, as I alluded to, is very much to work with people and meet their marketing objectives rather than just take their money. This is a low margin business. It is not a high margin business. Yes, we want to make money, but it's a labor of love. And transparency, I mentioned there. Again, if we're going to have relationships with people, we need to have proof that we say what we do and we do what we say. So you will see there, I won't go through it again, but the people we reach, the number of magazines we print, the number of website users, the number of Twitter followers, Instagram followers, LinkedIn followers, we publish them all. Not every publisher publishes these facts, sadly, and we're very, very conscious that we need to be open and honest with people about who we reach, what we can do, but also what we can't do. We cannot help everybody, and we're not relevant to everybody. So that relationship-led business, we hope we can continue to develop and do well, mindful of the fact that it's still extremely challenging. So that is where North East Times are in a nutshell.
And isn't that a wonderful way? Isn't that a wonderful place in which to finish hearing from our formal contributors? Because actually, John, I hope that what you've heard today are exactly the sort of stories that you might want to pick up and publish in the new North East Times. And how wonderful to hear about relationships and your other core values.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, John. We've only got one question so far coming in, and I'm also quite conscious of time, but it's from Ruth Yeoman, and I think could almost be addressed to anybody, but I'm going to start with Andrew Hague, if he's still here. Ruth Yeoman's from Oxford University, and she said, and this applies absolutely across the piece, what wonderful examples of values, but how do you negotiate tensions between conflicting values or things that appear to be conflicting? Andrew, are you still with us? Start asking Patricia that question, because, you know, turn myself off. The traditional view of investors and communities is a return. Are there conflicting values actually in what you do, Patricia, or and if there are, how do you negotiate them?
I think there's always potentially conflicting values in anything you do. However, you know, we're a not-for-profit organisation, and we are very clear with our investors that their money is at risk, and that they will get more of a social return. We don't want people's life savings, because we wouldn't, you know, we haven't lost anybody's money in our 30-year history and hope we never will, but their money is at risk and they could lose it. So I guess we need to be sure that we are encouraging and being really transparent with our investors about the risk that is involved in their investment. So I guess that's a little bit of a conflict. And in terms of the organisations we lend to, you know, we're very much try and concentrate on working within the fair trade movement to ensure that organisations we work with support our values. I guess our biggest challenge is recruiting teams overseas, where, you know, it's not as easy to control and you know, ensure that they are living our values every day when they're dealing with our customers. And we do try to recruit people for their social motivation as much as the skill that we're looking for. But yeah, there's, you know, in terms of our small charity, we're often having discussions about, you know, should we take a grant from a certain organisation, because does that conflict with the values that we have internally, or do we take the money because we know that it'll do good somewhere? So there are those sorts of discussions that do go on. Not sure if that answered your question. I kind of lost the question a bit while we were waiting for Andrew to answer. Sorry, Caroline.
It did, because it always, you know, it's just knowing that this is a complex world, isn't it? Andrew, have you found your voice, technologically speaking?
I have found my voice. I lost half the question, so if you could repeat the question, then you froze it all together. But
I will repeat the question, and actually then I'm just going to mark the cards of both Yvonne Gale and John Dunn's, actually, and Di, in that order. So the question was, it was from Ruth Yeoman from Oxford University, and she sort of applauded the wonderful examples of values that we've heard, but there's a but. How do you negotiate tensions between conflicting values?
Crikey. To be honest, I can't.
It's really annoying.
I can't immediately think of where those tensions lie. Where I think we go is back to purpose, first and foremost, as to finding the route through. And I think it's there are not really tensions within the business between values, but there are certainly choices we have to make, and there are choices of how much can we do, how quickly can we invest in things. You know, as I said before, we have a passionate belief in high streets and branches and the difference that a physical presence within the region makes, and that's an expensive call. We can't always do it, but we opened new branches in Wooler in Northumberland and in Hawes in North Yorkshire, just as everybody else left town. And I think there is a degree of an act of faith or a willingness to take a reasonable risk in support of doing what we believe is the right thing and where the purpose leads us to, and building on experience. So I think it's always a judgment and a balancing act. But in a banking world, you're always finding a balancing act between what you charge for a mortgage and what you can pay in a savings rate on an interest account. And it's a bit like that. It's finding, making a judgment through different values, different choices. But for us, it would be back to purpose as well. What's the route we would like to take if we possibly can? And then sort of bringing in, you know, sensible risk considerations into that too. But you can't be all things to all people, and you can't fix every problem, but it's what will add up to the biggest impact. I think that is the way we try and judge it.
Thank you for that really thoughtful response. I sort of threw it out there to Yvonne, John, not Kiz, but I am now, and Di. So all four of you. Does anybody? Yvonne, I think I was coming to you next. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, the only thing I would say is I find that we use the values as problem solvers, that when you're stuck, the answer is often to go back to the values. And I do use that. We've got some others that I just didn't mention. There's one that jumps out called continuous improvement. And I would suggest that one to Di, how to get embedded this, you know, willingness to take risks and accept that not everything's going to go to plan. And use continuous improvement as a sort of way of reconciling when things don't go perfectly well, but what can we learn from it?
Thank you. Whoops, yes, I am still live. Yes, thank you for that. John, I think there was an immediate tension between, you know, what people think about as publishing and your actually approach. How do you negotiate the tensions between the two?
Oh, damn, it's gone off. I think it's something we've got better at. I think initially, one of the hard things, if somebody says, I want to do some marketing, and you say, okay, we'll advertise with us, and they say they've got a budget of 750 quid. And I think when we first started, we said, oh, that's really nice. Here, have a page of advertising. We kind of know that isn't going to work. And we've learned, and I think that part I say we, is training our people to understand, actually, we're far better off saying, to be honest, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. It's not going to work for us. It's not going to work for you, as I mentioned in my talk. You're better off building your business up in your own networks to the point where you've got a marketing budget that will be effective. And I think it's hard to do that when things are tight as they all are, but you will be better off in the long run. And that is a tension we've learned about. We're better now than when we started. I think when we started, everybody's so excited anybody might want to get involved with us, but then marketing doesn't work unless it's consistent. So I think that is where a classic tension comes in between money today or helping people out, and indeed money in the future. We still don't always get it right, but I feel we're in a better position now than when we started.
What a great answer, and what a wonderful connection back to Yvonne. Now we've got, I'm going to actually do I'm going to see if Kiz is there. Kiz, anything that you want to say about the tension in values?
I am still here. Yeah, thanks, Caroline. I think the only thing that I would add to what people have already contributed is that if tension exists between values, I would advise people revisit the values, because they have to coexist. They have to complement one another, because otherwise, if a conflict exists and that's not resolved, even if it starts off small, actually those cracks grow and grow and grow, and fundamentally then compromises the foundations of the organisation. So that's the values. If they don't sit well together, that's what needs addressing. Thank you for that. Thank you. Di, I'm going to leave almost the last external contributor voice to you. Anything to add?
I would just echo that last comment, actually, that our recent values, I mean, this is still a fairly hot off the press exercise for us, because we did it during the lockdown. Our 4 values do leverage off each other, and we do have a mechanism within within our ethics policy for resolving any conflicts, if indeed conflicts arise. And I'm very conscious of that, because I'm a child of the time when the Lockheed scandal was around, with all that involved with ethical considerations and bribery and so on and so forth. So, if you like, that's the learning, and those are the scars from my history that bring us to the point where the young people in my organization felt very comfortable that intrinsically at the moment there is no conflict of interest, there is no conflict between the 4 values. They do work harmoniously together, and all I can say is long may they continue to do so.
Fantastic, thank you. I think, as I've just looked at the time, it has just gone 6:30, but not by much, and we did start actually a tiny bit late. So before I hand over to Hortz, if I may, I am just going to say a big thank you, which I know that she is going to reiterate, to all of our contributors, to all of us, to everybody who's joined us here today. I mean, the feedback on the chat has been amazing, fantastic presentations, really thought-provoking, really, really positive stuff. So if you want more positive stuff and thought-provoking stuff, please join NIBE again. The 17th of November is the next outing of the Responsible Business Network at Newcastle Business School, Northumbria University, and that's actually going to be Di Gates talking about the slow movement, which has now spread from its start in food to incorporate a more considered approach to life, I think prompted probably by COVID. On November the 26th, we are in the Tees Valley. Jane Reynolds, I know I saw here again, and another NIBE director, and we've got Irene Lucas joining us from Hayes to talk about their values. And 2nd of December is Women in the Labour Market with the new economics prof at the business school, Mary Sillis. And then if you want to hear more from Shared Interest, they're back again in March. I'm afraid I haven't got the date, Patricia, but I know that they're back again, and I'm sure that everybody will want to be joining that session. So that's a few things to sort of demonstrate that NIBE is here, and we're trying to do more. We need your help to spread the message, and we need to hear more stories of great practice. So we're going to ask John, I think, or feed John some press releases. But I'm going to hand over to my colleague Hortz in a minute. Hortz, just to bring this evening to a close, Hortz is the Culture Vulture, a professional cultural adventurer and creative champion who's passionate about independent culture and creativity in the North. and shouting loud about it. Her skill set revolves around connecting with and understanding people, and she's most well known for her work in social media, content creation, marketing, comms, and audience development. We're delighted she's also a director of NIBE. Hortz, over to you to bring this evening to a close.
An introduction, Caroline. Thank you. My head is huge. It's already big, my hair. So hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Rachel Horton, or Hortz, and I'm also one of the newest directors of NIBE this year. I just joined a little bit earlier in the year in February, and I run a business called the Culture Vulture. So to bring tonight to a close, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to all our fantastic contributors. And we've had such wonderful discussion tonight. It's truly been brilliant. It's been brilliant to really hear how businesses are really living their values and how their ethics are really going into their actions and activity. We all know that talk is really cheap, so it's great to hear about some actual real life business doing some amazing, amazing things. NIBE is all about promoting ethical business across the Northeast. And events like this help do just that and stimulate discussion and hopefully some positive change. So to our audience and everyone still here, I'd also like to extend a huge thank you for being a part of tonight and a part of our Global Ethics Day event and participating. Of course, ethics is constantly shifting, and contemporary issues and socially engaged issues mean that that's totally the case, and especially in 2020. So after tonight, I'd really invite you to take a moment of reflection, to reflect on your own personal and business values and what they really mean in 2020. But before we sign off, I've got a few takeaway things. So obviously, because I'm into social media, number one is please go follow NIBE on Twitter if you don't already. So that's at NEBizEthics, and you can continue the discussion over there tonight. Use the hashtag Global Ethics Day too to connect to the international chat. As Caroline introduced at the beginning, there's loads of events happening across today, so there's lots of really exciting and interesting discussion happening. Number two, check out our weekly NIBE blog. So we publish a blog once a week, and we share that on Twitter too. And that blog's about a weekly provocation every Tuesday, and it gets you thinking and reflecting about a specific contemporary ethical issue. And it's always a great read. And number three, as Caroline brilliantly outlined, please come to a NIBE future event. Our official next big event is our Toolkit launch on the 26th of November at 2 o'clock. And we'll be launching our Business Ethics Toolkit. I've worked a little bit on it and support the creation, and I promise that it's really, really brilliant, special, and very much needed, especially in 2020. Tickets to our launch event will become available soon. If you have a look on our website, we have an events section, and there you'll find a list of related events connected to ethical issues and discussion that we're either championing or supporting. And again, those go all into 2020-21, and we'd love to see you at one of those. So thank you for being here tonight, and I hope you've all had a great time, and keep in touch.
Thank you.